Rex Ryan just got called out in the most embarrassing way possible. After days of blasting Shedeur Sanders on live TV, new photos from a Browns team meeting just proved he lied on air. The NFL has reportedly stepped in. And the punishment? It's already sending shockwaves across every sports network.
What's going on, friends? Look at here. ESPN ex-NFL coach Rex Ryan owed Shedeur Sanders an apology. He lied on Shedeur Sanders about he need to be sitting in the front row trying to learn the playbook. It's an embarrassment. He should be trying to get himself together to be QB1. Well, my team, they come up with stuff. And they did this right here. Put it up there. That's pictures of Shedeur Sanders in the Cleveland Browns quarterback room, team meetings.
Rex Ryan just got caught in one of the most embarrassing lies in sports media history, and the receipts are brutal. The ex-NFL coach went on ESPN and flat out said Shedeur Sanders wasn't sitting in the front row of Browns team meetings, wasn't trying to learn the playbook, and called it an embarrassment. But here's the problem. Shedeur's team just dropped photo evidence that completely destroys Rex's entire narrative. We're talking multiple pictures, different days, all showing Shedeur exactly where Rex said he wasn't. And now the internet is going absolutely nuclear. But this isn't just about a coach getting his facts wrong. This goes way deeper. There's a power struggle brewing inside the Browns organization, and Shedeur Sanders is right in the middle of it. Stick around, because what I'm about to reveal will make you question everything you've heard about this kid.
She told my baby there's a three. She looked at me, then showed a photo. Baby cried, his eyes were like mine.
What's going on, friends? Look at here. ESPN ex-NFL coach Rex Ryan owed Shedeur Sanders an apology. He lied on Shedeur Sanders about he need to be sitting in the front row trying to learn the playbook. It's an embarrassment. He should be trying to get himself together to be QB1. Well, my team, they come up with stuff. And they did this right here. Put it up there. That's pictures of Shedeur Sanders in the Cleveland Browns quarterback room, team meetings, sitting in the front row. That's another picture.
So, look, let me break down exactly what happened here, because this situation is absolutely wild. Rex Ryan, former NFL head coach turned ESPN analyst, went on national television and decided to take a shot at Shedeur Sanders. And not just any shot, he basically questioned the kid's work ethic, his dedication, his entire approach to being an NFL quarterback.
She told my baby there's a three. She looked at me, then showed a photo. Baby cried, his eyes were like mine.
What's going on, friends? Look at here. ESPN ex-NFL coach Rex Ryan owed Shedeur Sanders an apology. He lied on Shedeur Sanders about he need to be sitting in the front row trying to learn the playbook. It's an embarrassment. He should be trying to get himself together to be QB1. Well, my team, they come up with stuff. And they did this right here. Put it up there. That's pictures of Shedeur Sanders in the Cleveland Browns quarterback room, team meetings, sitting in the front row. That's another picture.
Rex said, and I quote, that Shedeur needs to be sitting in the front row trying to learn the playbook. He called it an embarrassment and said Shedeur should be trying to get himself together to be QB1. Now, when a guy with Rex Ryan's credentials says something like that on ESPN, people listen. The narrative started spreading like wildfire. Social media went crazy. Everyone's talking about how Shedeur isn't taking things seriously, how he's not putting in the work, how he's too busy being Shedeur Sanders' son instead of being a real quarterback.
That he's better than some of them. So what? That's what he supposed to say. And matter of fact, Rex Ryan, he didn't lie. He's a better quarterback than majority of the players quarterbacking in the NFL. And also, when you look at the Cleveland Browns situation and the way Joe Flacco playing, come on, dog. You know should do it better than what Joe Flacco is putting out there on that field. You know that. We know that. We can see that. What you want us to do? Close our eyes? What you want Shedeur to do? Close his eyes?
But here's where it gets good, and I mean really good. Shedeur's team wasn't about to let that slide. They came back with the most devastating clapback you could possibly imagine. Cold, hard photographic evidence. And I'm not talking about one picture that could be explained away. I'm talking about multiple pictures from multiple different days, all showing Shedeur Sanders sitting exactly where? In the front row of Cleveland Browns quarterback room team meetings. Front row, where Rex Ryan said he needed to be but wasn't. The first picture drops. Shedeur in the front row, locked in, clearly engaged in the meeting. Okay, maybe that's just one time, right? Wrong. Second picture, different day, different meeting, Shedeur Sanders, front row again. Then a third picture, same thing, front row. This man has been doing exactly what Rex Ryan said he wasn't doing. And now Rex looks like he either completely made up his story or got fed false information by someone with an agenda. And that's where this gets really interesting. Because this isn't just about Rex Ryan being wrong. This is about someone wanting Rex to be wrong. Someone feeding him false information to create a narrative that would damage Shedeur Sanders' reputation, right? As he's trying to establish himself in the NFL. Now let's talk about who might have that kind of motivation. The name that keeps coming up? Kevin Stefanski, the Cleveland Browns head coach. And before you say I'm reaching, let me explain the chess game that's being played here. Kevin Stefanski has two guys he wants to protect, Joe Flacco and Dillon Gabriel. Joe Flacco is his safety blanket, his veteran presence, the guy he can lean on even though Flacco is literally 40 years old and playing like he's 80. Dillon Gabriel is his draft pick, the guy he personally vouched for, the computer brand quarterback he thinks can be the future. But there's a problem with both of those guys. Shedeur Sanders is better than both of them, and everybody knows it. So what do you do when you're a head coach trying to protect your guys, but there's a more talented player sitting right there on the roster? You create a narrative. You whisper to the media. You feed information to guys like Rex Ryan, who have platforms and credibility. You make it seem like the talented kid isn't ready, isn't putting in the work, isn't a team guy. That way, when you don't play him, you have cover. You have an excuse, but Shedeur caught them slipping. He had the receipts ready to go, and now the whole plan is exposed. Let's bring in what Shady McCoy said about this whole situation, because Shady kept it so real, it's almost uncomfortable. Shady broke down the reality of what Shedeur is facing, and he did it in a way that shows he actually understands what it's like to be a young player with high expectations in the NFL. Shady said, "Coming out of college, Shedeur had way more hype and was projected higher than me. Better player or not, coming out he was super hyped." And that's facts. Shedeur was supposed to be the second or third quarterback taken in the draft. Everyone in the football world was thinking that. Analysts were saying it. Scouts were saying it. Shedeur himself was thinking it, because that's what all the information suggested. So Shady asks the question that nobody else wants to ask. Why would I go to the Ravens when I'm supposed to be the second or third quarterback off the board? Why would I go to the Chiefs and they say I'm going to be the number 2 quarterback? Think about that for a second. If you're told your entire college career that you're one of the top quarterback prospects in the nation, if you've done everything right, if you've led your team, won games, put up numbers, and everyone's projecting you as a top-tier pick, why would you be okay with going somewhere to be a backup when you know you're better than the guy in front of you? And that's exactly what Shedeur is dealing with in Cleveland. He's watching Joe Flacco, who looks like he can barely move out there, struggling to get the ball downfield, making the kind of mistakes that would get a younger quarterback benched immediately. The Browns haven't scored 20 points on offense since Thanksgiving of last year. Let that sink in. Thanksgiving. We're almost a full calendar year removed from the last time this offense looked competent, and they're still rolling with Joe Flacco. Shady continued, "The starting quarterback is playing god-awful. Joe Flacco looks like an old scared man out there on the field. And you're telling me I can't get a shot? That's the frustration. That's what this is really about. It's not about Shedeur being entitled or not wanting to wait his turn. It's about watching someone who clearly isn't getting the job done continue to get chances while you sit there knowing you could do better." But here's where the narrative gets weaponized against him. Rex Ryan and others in the media create this story that Shedeur is cocky, that he's running his mouth, that he's not ready, that he's not studying. Shady called this out perfectly. When an ex-coach of the magnitude of Rex Ryan talks about it, when guys on TV talk about it, and we create the narrative that I'm talking my running my mouth, I'm not ready to play, I'm not studying, that's when the issues come in. How do you know that? How do they know that? They don't. They're making assumptions based on the narrative they want to push, not based on actual facts. And the photos prove it. Now, I want to address something important here because there's been a lot of talk about whether Shedeur should have handled this differently, whether he should have just stayed quiet and played the game. And look, I understand that perspective. The NFL is a business, and sometimes you have to play politics to get where you want to go. But here's my counter to that. Why should Shedeur have to play a game that's rigged against him? Why should he have to smile and nod while people lie about him on national television? Why should he accept being buried on a depth chart behind a 40-year-old quarterback who can't perform when he knows he's better? The narrative around Shedeur has always been about respect. This kid has been doubted his entire career because of his last name. People say he only got opportunities because his dad is Shedeur Sanders. They say he's overrated, that he can't handle real competition, that he won't succeed at the next level. And every single time, Shedeur has proven them wrong. He balled out at Jackson State. He transferred to Colorado and balled out again in a Power 5 conference. He put up numbers, led his team to wins, showed leadership, showed poise under pressure. And now he's in the NFL, sitting in the front row of team meetings, studying the playbook, doing everything the right way, and still getting criticized, still getting lied about, still getting disrespected. At some point, you have to stand up for yourself. At some point, you have to say, enough is enough. And that's what Shedeur did by releasing those photos. He didn't come out with a long statement. He didn't go on a media tour. He just showed the receipts and let them speak for themselves. And the receipts are loud. Here's what really happened, and this is where the story gets even more interesting. According to Tony Rizzo, a Cleveland sports media personality who's been covering the Browns for years, there's a rift going on inside the building. Not just a small disagreement, a full-blown rift between Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, and Andrew Berry, the general manager. Drew Berry, the general manager. Rizzo reported that Stefanski wants to stick with Joe Flacco. He believes in the veteran, he trusts him, and he's willing to ride or die with that decision. But Andrew Berry, he's ready to move on. He wants to see what the young guys can do. He wants to give either Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders a legitimate shot to compete for the starting job. This is textbook organizational dysfunction. When your head coach and your general manager aren't on the same page about the most important position in football, you've got problems. And those problems aren't going to magically resolve themselves. They're going to get worse as the season goes on, and the losses pile up. Because make no mistake, the Browns are going to lose games with Joe Flacco under center. They're going to continue to struggle on offense. They're going to continue to fail to score 20 points. And every single game that happens, the pressure is going to build. The fans are going to get louder. The media is going to ask more pointed questions. And eventually, someone's going to have to make a decision. When that happens, when Stefanski finally has no choice but to bench Flacco, he's going to be in an impossible position. If he goes to Dillon Gabriel and Gabriel struggles, which, let's be real, is likely given that he's never shown he's that guy, then the calls for Shedeur are going to be deafening. The stadium is going to chant his name. Social media is going to explode. Everyone who has been following this story is going to point out that Shedeur was ready all along. And if Stefanski skips over Gabriel and goes straight to Shedeur, well, then he has to admit that he was wrong all along. He has to admit that the kid he was trying to keep buried should have been playing from the start. He has to admit that he let his personal feelings about Joe Flacco and his investment in Dillon Gabriel cloud his judgment. About who gives the team the best chance to win, that's why the Rex Ryan situation is so significant. It wasn't just a random media personality taking a shot at a young player. It was part of a coordinated effort to control the narrative around Shedeur Sanders and keep him from threatening the established hierarchy in Cleveland. But it backfired spectacularly because now everyone can see what's really going on. Everyone can see that Shedeur is doing everything right, that he's being professional, that he's putting in the work, and that he's still being held back for reasons that have nothing to do with his ability or his preparation. The question now is, how long can the Browns keep this up? How long can they justify keeping Shedeur on the bench while Joe Flacco continues to struggle and the offense continues to sputter? How many more losses will it take before the pressure becomes too much, and they're forced to make a change? Dillon Gabriel played 6 years of college football. He played 64 games. He went through rookie minicamp, training camp, and the preseason. If he was really ready, if he was really the answer, why isn't he out there right now? The team isn't winning. The offense isn't scoring. What exactly are they waiting for? The answer, of course, is that they're trying to delay the inevitable. They know that once Shedeur gets on the field and shows what he can do, the conversation is over. There's no going back to Joe Flacco. There's no pretending that Dillon Gabriel is the future. Shedeur becomes the guy, and everyone who tried to hold him back looks foolish. So they're desperately trying to extend Joe Flacco's time as the starter for as long as possible, hoping against hope that something changes, that Flacco somehow recaptures his old form, that they can avoid having to answer the uncomfortable questions about why they didn't give Shedeur a shot sooner. But time is running out, and the photos that destroyed Rex Ryan's credibility are proof that Shedeur isn't going anywhere. He's not going to quietly accept being disrespected. He's not going to let people lie about him without consequences. And he's not going to stop preparing for his opportunity, because he knows it's coming. Now let's zoom out for a second and talk about what this situation really represents, because it's bigger than just one player and one team. What we're witnessing with Shedeur Sanders is a microcosm of everything that's wrong with how the NFL evaluates and handles young quarterbacks, especially young black quarterbacks who don't fit the traditional mold. The NFL has a type. They want their quarterbacks to be quiet, humble, deferential. They want guys who will say yes sir, no sir, who will never question authority, who will wait patiently for their turn even when that turn might never come. They want players who understand that the NFL is a business run by people who have been doing things a certain way for decades, and they don't want anyone rocking the boat. Shedeur Sanders doesn't fit that mold. He's confident, he's vocal, he believes in himself, and he's not afraid to say that he deserves an opportunity. And because of that, he gets labeled as cocky, arrogant, entitled. He gets accused of not being a team player, of caring more about his brand than winning games, of relying on his father's name instead of his own talent. But here's the thing. When you actually look at what Shedeur does, not just what people say about him, the picture is completely different. He shows up to meetings. He sits in the front row. He studies the playbook. He prepares like a starter even though he's not getting starter reps. He supports his teammates. He handles his business professionally. The disconnect between who Shedeur actually is and how he's portrayed in the media is staggering. And that disconnect exists because there are people in the NFL establishment who are uncomfortable with a player like Shedeur having power, having leverage, having the ability to control his own narrative. Think about what Shady McCoy said about playing the game. He basically admitted that the NFL expects young players to shut up, do what they're told, get drafted wherever they get drafted, take whatever money is offered, and be grateful for the opportunity. And then, after you've secured your bag and established yourself, you can start having opinions and making demands. But why should that be the system? Why should talented players have to pretend they're something they're not, just to make coaches and executives comfortable? Why should Shedeur have to act like he's okay being a backup, when everyone with eyes can see he's better than the guy in front of him? The answer is that the people in power benefit from that system. It keeps players in their place. It maintains the hierarchy. It ensures that coaches and front offices have total control over who plays and when, regardless of merit. But social media and modern technology have started to disrupt that system. Players don't have to rely solely on traditional media anymore to tell their stories. They can go directly to fans. They can post evidence, like those photos of Shedeur in the front row, that contradicts the narratives being pushed by analysts and insiders. They can build their own brands and create their own leverage, and the establishment hates that. They hate that they can't control the narrative anymore. They hate that players like Shedeur can call them out when they lie. They hate that the old rules don't apply the way they used to. That's what makes this Rex Ryan situation so significant. It's not just about one incorrect statement on ESPN. It's about the fact that Rex Ryan felt comfortable going on national television and making claims about Shedeur Sanders without bothering to verify the facts because he assumed no one would challenge him. He assumed the old system would protect him, that his credibility as a former coach would be enough, that Shedeur would just have to take it and move on. He was wrong. And move on. He was wrong. Now, I want to talk about something that's been bothering me about this whole situation, and it's the constant questioning of Shedeur's character and motivations. Every time he does something that shows confidence or self-belief, it gets framed as arrogance. Every time he speaks up for himself, he gets accused of being difficult. Every time he shows emotion or frustration, people say he's not mature enough for the NFL. But compare that to how other quarterbacks are treated. When a white quarterback shows confidence, he's called a fierce competitor. When he demands excellence from his teammates, he's showing leadership. When he gets frustrated with losing, he's demonstrating passion for the game. The double standard is obvious to anyone paying attention. Shedeur Sanders is held to a different standard because of who he is and where he comes from. And the saddest part is that even some black analysts and former players have bought into that narrative and are criticizing him for not being more submissive. But here's what I respect about Shedeur. He's not changing who he is to make other people comfortable. He's not dimming his light so other people don't feel threatened. He's being authentically himself, and he's trusting that his talent and work ethic will eventually speak louder than the noise. And you know what? He's right. Because at the end of the day, football is about what you do on the field. All the media narratives, all the politics, all the drama. None of that matters when the ball is snapped and you have to make plays. Shedeur has been making plays his entire career. At every level he's competed. There's no reason to think that's going to change in the NFL. The Browns are going to figure that out eventually. Kevin Stefanski is going to figure that out eventually. And when they do, when Shedeur finally gets his opportunity and shows what he can do, all the people who doubted him are going to have to answer for why they spent so much time trying to tear him down instead of building him up. Rex Ryan is just the first domino to fall. His credibility is shot now. He got caught lying on national television, and the evidence is irrefutable. But there will be others. There will be more analysts, more coaches, more insiders who get exposed for pushing narratives that aren't based in reality. And through it all, Shedeur is going to keep doing what he's been doing, showing up, preparing, working, waiting for his moment. Because that's who he is. That's who he's always been. Let me bring this back to the current situation in Cleveland, because the clock is ticking and decisions are going to have to be made soon. Joe Flacco can't keep playing like this. The offense can't keep failing to score 20 points. The losses can't keep piling up. At some point, something has to give. When that moment comes, when Stefanski finally has no choice but to make a change, the entire NFL is going to be watching. Not just Browns fans, not just Shedeur fans, everyone. Because this story has become about more than just one player's journey. It's become about whether talent and preparation actually matter in the NFL, or whether politics and relationships are more important. The people who want to see Shedeur succeed, and there are millions of them, are watching to see if hard work and dedication actually pay off, or if the system is rigged against players who don't fit the traditional mold. The people who doubt Shedeur are watching to see if he'll crack under the pressure, if he'll prove them right by struggling when he finally gets his chance. But there's a third group watching too, and they might be the most important. Young players who are coming up behind Shedeur, who are dealing with their own doubts and their own struggles with the establishment. They're watching to see if it's possible to be yourself in the NFL, to stand up for yourself, to demand respect, without being destroyed for it. Shedeur Sanders is carrying the hopes and dreams of a lot of people on his shoulders, whether he realizes it or not. And the way he handles this situation, the way he continues to prepare and stay ready despite all the obstacles being thrown in his path, is going to inspire or discourage an entire generation of players. That's why those photos were so important. That's why exposing Rex Ryan's lies mattered. It wasn't just about correcting the record. It was about showing that you don't have to accept being disrespected, that you can fight back against false narratives, that you can win even when the system is designed to make you lose. The Browns organization needs to ask themselves a serious question. What are they really doing here? Are they trying to win games and build a championship contender? Or are they trying to protect egos and maintain power structures? Because right now, it looks like the second one. It looks like they're more concerned with proving that their evaluation of Dillon Gabriel was correct, and that their loyalty to Joe Flacco is justified, than they are with actually putting the best players on the field. And that's how franchises waste years of potential success. That's how you end up being a mediocre team that's always rebuilding, always promising that next year will be different, always falling short of expectations. The sad reality is that the Browns have a potential franchise quarterback sitting right there, ready to play, prepared to contribute, and they're wasting him because of politics and pride. They're letting a Hall of Fame talent slip through their fingers because the people in charge can't admit they might have been wrong about some things. History is going to judge this situation harshly. When people look back years from now, if Shedeur Sanders becomes the star that many people believe he will be, the Cleveland Browns are going to be remembered as the team that had him and didn't use him. Kevin Stefanski is going to be remembered as the coach who let his personal preferences override his professional judgment. And Rex Ryan? He's going to be remembered as the guy who got caught lying and helped expose the whole corrupt system that was trying to keep Shedeur down. So here's my question for you. How long do you think the Browns can keep Shedeur on the bench before the pressure becomes too much? Do you think Kevin Stefanski will eventually cave and give him a shot? Or will pride keep him committed to Joe Flacco and Dylan Gabriel no matter what? And bigger picture, do you think the NFL establishment is threatened by players like Shedeur who refuse to play by the old rules? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think about this whole situation. Are you Team Shedeur, or do you think he needs to be more patient and wait his turn? Let me know, and if you want to stay updated on this story, because trust me, it's far from over, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I'll be dropping more videos on this Browns quarterback situation as it develops, and you're not going to want to miss what happens next. Rex Ryan got exposed. The lies are out in the open. Now we wait to see what the Browns do about it. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning.